Go to BABBEL.com. That's Babbel.com.
Hey, good morning, everyone. And this is our live feed, our StreamYard feed, coming up for the Ag Issues program with State Representative Ken Rahjes out of AGRA. And we, of course, will talk several things with the Kansas legislature coming up here in just a bit. As you can hear in the background, we've got commercials going on right now. And so we'll keep you up to date as to the weather, especially if you're listening on 580 WIBW. And of course, weather-wise, keep up to date with that. That's the best thing we can tell you here on 580 WIBW and or wherever you get your weather sources, because it appears to be a fair amount of snow coming into the state of Kansas. Now, if we compare that to the January 4th storm, there's a little 6 and 1/2 dozen the other there, but I don't think we're going to get freezing precipitation before that, and B, I hope we don't get as much as we did here in Topeka from the January 4th storm. But we'll wait and see. The big snow is yet to come here Tuesday night into Wednesday, and we'll keep you updated on the forecast as well. We're just about ready to get started here on the Ag Issues program. All right, stand by, and we will be going here shortly. Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you with us on the program this morning. And this morning, we are going to talk the Kansas legislature to get our monthly state updates started. And we're pleased to be joined here in just a bit by Kansas State Representative Ken Rahjes from AGRA, representing the 110th District. All right, stand by. Oh, you know what I didn't do?
Then send me the link.
Yeah.
Snowfall totals are generally decreasing for tonight and into Tuesday morning. Snowfall generally only totals up to an inch are expected. As we look, a more active pattern begins to take shape this afternoon, and it continues to bring in and set the stage for accumulating snowfall for tonight through Wednesday night. Much of today will remain dry as the moisture remains cut off to our south, but some loads of energy and saturation could become realized Monday afternoon, leading to some.
Okay, just send it to you.
Again, we will look fairly dry, so any precipitation during the afternoon will likely be in the form of flurries or light snow showers. As we head through the night and into Tuesday, conditions.
Hopefully it'll work while you're doing the live, while we're live here.
But then by Tuesday,
Got less than a minute left here, so.
Okay, hopefully we'll get that ready to go.
As we head into tonight, the chance of snow showers will continue. Under cloudy skies with a low around 21. Northeast.
I'm getting in there now.
Gusting as high as 25 miles per hour. Into Tuesday night, snow showers are likely under cloudy skies with a low around 15 degrees. Northeast winds at 5 to 10 and gusting as high as 20 miles per hour. Wednesday, snow showers are likely under cloudy skies with a high of 21. North winds at 5 to 10 and gusting as high as 25 miles per hour. Wednesday night, a slight chance for snow showers for the overnight under cloudy skies with a low around 2 degrees. North wind will stay around 5 to 10 and gust as high as 20 miles per hour. This is the Kansas AG Network.
All right. Thank you very much, meteorologist. Coming up here, as far as temperatures are concerned, we have a mostly cloudy sky, 23 degrees at Bullitt Airport, mostly cloudy, 23 degrees this morning at Forbes Field. This morning on the Ag Issues program, a pleasure as always to bring back to the program, as he is busy here in the capital city, Kansas State Representative Ken Rahjes, representing the 110th District out of AGRA, as he joins us on the Ag Issues program this morning. Ken, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Greg. Well, the sun will shine, will come up this morning. A little disappointed last night, but what a run, what a ride. Looking forward already to fall camp and getting ready for another season.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right. It's been a busy time. We didn't get a chance to speak with you in January, but you guys are fairly close to the turnaround time for the state legislature during the session as well.
We are getting very close, Greg. We have roughly 2 more weeks, and then we'll be at the halfway point already, which does seem to be a little quicker. It really kind of is. This week, we'll start on putting all the budget together. We've had all the different committees report out, and now the staff spent the weekend putting things together. Tomorrow we'll start appropriations and hopefully have everything done by Thursday, and then they'll work on it over the weekend again and get it on the floor and then pass it over to the Senate. We're doing things a little bit different this year, where the House is really doing the heavy lift and hearing everybody, and then the Senate will go through some process, but they won't have subcommittees like they have in the past. At least that's the way we understand. And so the leadership decided to really do a true 90-day session. That means a 90 calendar days. I mean, things are already set up to where we will be done by mid-April. That's we sine die, so we'll be done. Normally about this time, Greg, we would just get started with the committee meetings, getting the budget. But this year, the House decided to create their own budget and not wait for the governors. And so that's why things have been so quick, it seems like. And really, we hit the ground running that second Monday in January, and we'll probably breathe here in about another 2 weeks. It has just been at a really rapid pace.
Let me ask for this, because we have inclement weather coming as well. I don't know. Well, I guess it's great unknown whether it's going to put a kink in to the budget talks, just because of the fact that, like in January, when the state was closed due in part because of the winter storm, that might be a little hampering. You just don't know right now as to where that's going to go.
Well, I think leadership will decide, and there's usually conversations between all the legislative branches on what is going on. I know in the past, Governor Kelly has asked all the Shawnee County-based state employees to stay home back in January. We'll see what happens. The legislature can kind of do what they need to do. In the past, the time I've served, there's been times that everybody else has been at home and the legislature still goes to work. I just don't know. I'd hate to speculate, but I would guess we'll be getting our work done. It may be a bit delayed by a little bit of an hour or two, possibly, but we'll just have to wait and see what the weather brings. But we need to, we got to get things done on a timely basis. So, but obviously, safety is paramount. But we know that some of those legislators that travel in from out of town could probably find a room here in Topeka and stick around and be able to get us to the Capitol.
Ken, one of the things for you as the chair of the House Ag Committee, the issue of water. You obviously, your fellow cohort Jim Minix is the chair of the Water Committee, but there's going to be a hearing of the Water Task Force today, I understand.
Yes, we have put together a bill in the form of a water task force to look at the long-term situation with water. We know there were local consult meetings this summer all over the state that the bunch of the water folks put together and working on that now. We decided to take a legislative approach and really take a deep dive into possible long-term solution to funding. What does that look like? Really reprioritize what we need to do to make sure there's ample supplies of water and not necessarily go after one particular sector or the other. And so we're putting together a commission, we believe, that will bring in most of the stakeholders, from municipalities to industry to agriculture, of course. And Representative Minix and I definitely will be on that committee because in the past, with being agri-natural resources, water has been in there, but Speaker Hawkins decided a couple of years ago the water was so important it needed its own committee, and we're so pleased. Representative Minix has done a tremendous job as chair. Gary White from Ashland is now the vice chair this year, and so it's good to have a couple of farmers, a couple of irrigators as leading that committee, and we like to have other folks along as well. But that means that we can take a good look and not really just look at who to blame for what has happened. We just need to move forward, and so looking forward to seeing what happens in the House, and then hopefully that passes and it goes on to the Senate, and then we'll see what happens. I know there are some also that want to look at some of the water doctrine, some of the water law, and maybe there's some things that do need to be updated. I don't know. We'll see what the final indication are. But, want folks to know that the legislature, and I have said for the last several years, water is the issue here in the legislature, and it is again this year. And so far, Greg, just as a side note, in going through the budget process, we have put another 23 million or so into water. We don't know where it's going to end up. And, there's some things for everyone. I know the governor wanted about 30 million, but we need to cut back. And I'm guessing as we put the budget together, we may have to cut back a little bit more. And so maybe we really have to focus on what we really need rather than the possible, what would be nice to have.
Exactly. And I assume one of the things too that made a little more alarm bells is what we saw recently on the drop off of the Ogallala Aquifer, foot and a half from 2024 back to 2023.
Well, I think that's always something that we want to look at. But I think if you look a little bit further in that report, the headline said that, but I think that's in certain areas. Other areas are doing well. What we're seeing in Groundwater Management District number 3, where quite honestly, the bullseye was on the last few years, those board members have done a great job in leading and really working with their other fellow irrigators there to curtail and to really look at how they're utilizing water, realizing it needs to be there. And so hats off to them. And we really see agriculture stepping up to the plate as far as water usage. But, sometimes it gets kind of frustrating to read these headlines, and it seems like some always want to go after the worst case scenario. Not to take this lightly by any means. Water is the key of life. I believe, Greg, 20, almost 30 years ago, I did an editorial right here on WIBW that did say that water was the key to life. And without water, and I told my fellow colleagues this, we can talk about all the different issues under the dome there, but without water, it's a moot point. We have to have water to live. And so that's why it's so important, and really pleased that Representative Minix and others have brought a broad coalition of Republicans and Democrats and urban and rural together to really work on these water issues.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Kansas State Representative Ken Rahjes on this edition of the Ag Issues program here on 580 WIBW. Okay, we are in a commercial break. We're talking with Ken Rahjes, State Representative.
Is there
Yeah, we for some reason
a little delay?
Yeah, and for those of you who are watching, that can be an issue sometimes, as you've probably seen on many interviews on television that are via Zoom or whatever the case may be.
And we're 12 blocks away.
Yeah.
Bring the whole family, enjoy special events like the Family Living Center, the Health and Safety Roundup, and the best women in
sometimes you and I could be in the same building and you have that type of delay, but what do you do?
Sure.
See you at the show.
For half a century, glyphosate has affordably and effectively protected Kansas farmers' crops from invasive weeds. Without it, the impact would be felt beyond the fields. In America,
How
it hurts our wallets.
how dry are you guys out there on the farm?
Advocates for farmers continued access to essential crop
We are
protection
dry at home. We could use some moisture. I know Hayes has more snow left over. We don't have any. We don't have any mud. We're blowing dust. We're blowing dust. We went to Hayes early Saturday morning for a forum, and the roads are just blowing dust. I mean, we need some moisture. We only got just a little bit of ice and a little bit of snow, so we're looking forward to some moisture. I don't want a dry, cold wind for the calves, but you know, but you go, Beloit's still got some moisture, but we are dry at the farm.
Yep. All right, stand by. We're about out of commercial break, and we'll be back here in just a second. For those of you behind the scenes here with State Representative Ken Rahjes. And we got a lot more to talk about here.
I'll try to be quicker.
Brought to you by Capital City Oil, the power to go, the power to grow, the power of CCO. Over 60 years of integrity, reliability, and convenience. Capital City Oil. This is Ag Issues with Greg Akagi.
And we are back on the Ag Issues program this morning here on 580 WIBW. State Representative Ken Rahjes is joining us on the program this morning as we are talking the latest on what's going on in the Kansas legislature. You know, there are many other things, and this is something we've talked with Roger McGowan about, Ken, as the shortage of lawyers in rural Kansas. And I understand you guys, or what there will be a hearing coming up soon to look at that issue.
Yes, this week we're going to have a hearing. It's in the Ag Committee. I introduced this bill and talking with Dr. McCohen and others. Who would have ever thought that we'd have a shortage of lawyers in Kansas? And especially in our rural areas, not just western Kansas, but rural areas. So some counties maybe have one or two or less than that, even practicing attorneys. And so we're going to have a hearing on working in a program. Actually, this came from the judicial branch in looking at, they had a task force that came out and want to keep this task force going on how to meet those needs. And so we're going to have a hearing on forming this task force, that are continuing the task force, as well as the loan repayment program, similar to what we have for the rural and underserved areas for doctors. And so that's hopefully that is successful. We pass it through the House and it goes to the Senate. We'll see. But it's one of those things. We know we have accountant shortages and other service sector jobs, but there are things that only attorneys can do. And so we want to make sure that folks in our rural areas are represented and have counsel that can do that legal work for them. And so to me, that's, it was something I wasn't exactly sure, but after a few conversations and some examples, I thought, well, this is something that's very important for rural Kansas. And so that's why we're trying to champion it and work with folks to get it moving.
As far as you being the chair of the House Ag and Natural Resources Committee, also have to look at budgets as well. And you talked earlier about looking at the water budget. What about on Ag and Natural Resources?
Well, I'm on the Ag and Natural Resources budget, and a lot of it is kind of steady as she goes. Most enhancements we're basically dealing with water. If there are such things as enhancements, and that's an addition, if you will. And the Ag and Natural Resources budget deals with a lot of different things. One of those is commerce. And so we deal with the budget of the Commerce Department. And there's been some cuts there. They have worked very hard to do some things. Yeah, there's some programs that may have a bit of a haircut or may actually go away just in trying to save some money. And so I think as we work together, those things move forward. Also, just looking at ways to continue to enhance and grow the economy. That's one of the good things about it. Now, one thing, Greg, that we do have, I guess, as a former chair of higher education budget, it didn't come through our committee, but it did go through that committee, and that was for Kansas State University. And over the years, they've had a few enhancements. This year, they came with wanting to renew K-State 105, and that was their top priority. And well, that had a bit of a change going through committee, but they did put money in for the veterinary school, and to add more money there. And as we went through the appropriations process in that committee, we made some changes and got that split a bit. So $4 million in for K-State 105, $3.5 million for the K-State Vet School. We hope that will create some more slots for Kansas students to get into the veterinary school. And so that and some faculty and some other things, get them on that right path, and also continue the good work of K-State 105. There's more parameters this year. They've had a couple of years, about a year to get going, a year of activity, and another year, and then we'll see where that goes. It's a economic development tool. It's a thing that works through extension. Hence, K-State 105. It's in every county in Kansas, and so it's one of the things that I believe in and have fought hard to keep in. And so we hope as it goes through the process, it remains.
Ken, as we look at other things, a couple other things to look at. There is a bill, and I know there has been talk of this as well, on if one of our senators gets another job, maybe higher up in the administration or whatever the case may be. I know it's coming to the House floor this week, specifically on looking at.
Yeah, I believe that it's going to come to the floor this week. I went through our elections committee, and having to deal with, say, if one of our senators or one of our non-constitutional elected officers, like the insurance commissioner or I believe state treasurer, if they would say resign for whatever reason, retire, pass away, that instead of the way the structure is now, where the governor can appoint whoever they want, it would go through a process that both the House and Senate would go through a process of selecting 3 names. And then once that all gets settled, then those 3 names would be
Okay, it looks like we had freezing of the video, so hopefully we will get that back here shortly to talk about that. That is something.
for a while, and it's finally came that way.
Ken, the video froze up just a bit. You might want to re-explain that as far as what that bill entails.
Well, Greg, as far as what I know, is that it would be a U.S. senator or our non-constitutional holders, insurance commissioner and treasurer, say if they would depart for another, resign for whatever reason or pass away in office, that instead of the way it is right now, where the governor can select a replacement, fill out that term, situation where the House and Senate would both go through a process of selecting 3 names, and then that's all agreed to, then those 3 names would be given to the governor, and then they would make that decision. And then of those 3, rather than be able to pick their own, I think what's happened in the past is, say, a Republican office holder has resigned to, say, take a job in Washington, and then if it was a Democrat governor, they would elect, or they would appoint a Democrat for that position. I think again, it would just depend on who that office holder is, and I know we'll see. It's something different. A couple other states do it this way, and so we'll see what happens. It's really just the beginning processes, and I don't know exactly all the details as far as what the criteria is, what the select. If it's there'll probably some sort of process where you send in something and go from there. So we'll wait and see.
You are not on the tax committee, Ken. I know that, but of course, there's a lot of discussion on where we're going with taxes too.
Yes, there is, and I know there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of talk in the news. The Senate's done an awful lot of work on taxes so far. The House is still working on something. like a 6-year rolling average, possibly for homes. That's not really much tax relief, but to bring some stability. There's still a lot of talk out there of a possible Constitution amendment for a 3% freeze on home valuation. So we'll see. Greg, before I go, I just want to remind folks that the Senate has set up kind of our own COGE, if you will, the Committee on Government Efficiency. That site is up. You can find the link at kslegislature.gov. And so there, then the portal, I think it started just a couple of days ago. Greg, I understand the first day they had it, it crashed. There were so many emails and so many suggestions on things to look at as far as to find efficiencies, find maybe money that can be used in a different way, or just to go through a lot of different things. I think it's going to be interesting what they find.
Yep, indeed. All right, Ken, we're out of time, but as always, my friend, hey, I appreciate it doing the work in the Kansas legislature, and we will talk to you next month.
Look forward to it, Greg. Thank you so much.
Kansas State Representative Ken Rahjes, representing the 110th District from Agra, has been our guest this morning on the Ag Issues program here on 580 WIBW. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll get an update on the news headlines, and we'll check the weather forecast. That comes up next.